Thor Dark World. Is this any good? Yes and no. Let's talk about it. Uh it's kind of funny. The Thor movies, at least 1 and 2, they're not bad movies, but there's something I think that holds each of them back. The action's pretty good. The comedy's pretty good. Seeing Chris Hemsworth as Thor again, especially after the first Avengers movie, he's amazing. I'm just throwing that out there right now. The brotherhood between Thor and Loki is still amazing. The complicated relationship that these two have, it really carries the movie. Loki, he's such an interesting villain. Again, like, he's not, how do I put it? He's not evil. He's just an asshole, a self-entitled asshole. That's why I kept this clip so long. Seeing Anthony Hopkins' face, he looks very visibly pissed off. He gives it to him so cold. Uh, then you have the introduction of Malekith. He's kind of boring, to be honest with you. I didn't care about his villain as much as I would like to. I think what it is he's kind of, his motivation is uninspired. I understand that a long time ago his race ruled everything and he's trying to get it back. But I just, it didn't really matter to me. It was all too kind of, it felt quick. I think that's one thing one of the things I didn't like about this film is they kind of drop these little details in for you, but it's not enough to really care. I wanted to, but it just didn't really hit as well as I'd like. Seeing Jane back in, seeing her tie in, at first I didn't really get it, but the more I think about it, the more her character still makes sense. She gets infected by this ether, which is the weapon of Malekith, which is also the reality Infinity Stone for anybody who doesn't know, because she's looking for Thor. So she actually makes sense, and really the events leading up to Malekith waking up and starting where he left off makes sense enough too. But at the end of the day, I only really cared about Thor kicking ass. I just wanted to see all the action, all the Asgardian action. Actually, I think that's why Thor Ragnarok is the best, is they don't shy away from that at all. But I'll get to that later on. When this shit finally hits the fan, that's where it gets really good. Seeing the Dark Elves come over to Asgard and kick everybody's ass, awesome. It doesn't quite make sense story-wise, in that for some reason Malekith just knows where the ether is. He knows exactly where to go. He knows exactly how to take down Asgard's defenses. For some reason, even though Malekith has been gone for thousands of years, Asgard hasn't improved at all. His forces still just come in and just tear down this city. It's weird too, because Malekith's forces were greatly decimated in the previous war with Odin's father, but for some reason he just needs a few people to come up in there and just wreck all of Asgard. Same thing with the Cursed Soldier. On one hand, he looks really cool. He's really badass in this movie. But on the other hand, how do they know where to put this man so he can get captured, so he can end up inside the Asgardian cells, so he can do what he's doing in the first place? They don't explain that. They just drop him in there and he's just doing his thing. It looks cool, but it doesn't make sense. I think the big nugget here, though, is what Loki does next. Loki sees this big creature and he tells this creature where to go in order to take down that shield that protects the castle. Which is funny because Loki thinks it's a good idea at the time. He looks so smug getting back at his father and his family over, again, these slights that he thinks happened but actually didn't. He's just being an asshole again. And it finally bites him in the ass. He loses the one person that he cares about most. The one person who cares about him the most. Thankfully, they show her being really badass in the end. But yeah, his mom dies. All because, well, not just because of him, but in part because of his own shenanigans. I think this is the first time we actually see significant loss for Thor and his family. One thing I have forgotten about Thor is he loses so many people in the MCU, starting with his mom, and it's pretty bad. I think it's one of the most impactful scenes of this whole film. In fact, it gives it validity. It actually makes this movie better than it should be. Her death also gives backbone to Thor and Loki working together again. I mean, Loki betrayed Thor twice. He did it in the first movie, he did it in the Avengers, just consistently being an asshole to his brother and his family. But the death of their mother kind of has him looking beyond that. And honestly, I just love seeing Chris Evans again. I love that man, and I love him as Captain America. So it's just kind of cool that he's in the movie. They're such a fun duo. I would see 1,000 movies with Thor and Loki together. They play off very well together, both in skill and charm and look, everything. They work very nicely when they're battling each other. Quip for quip, hit for hit, they never miss a mark. It's actually kind of funny that Tom Hiddleston auditioned to be Thor. I'm glad he wasn't, just because he works so well with Chris Hemsworth. Side note, you actually get to see Zachary Levi as Fandral in this movie. For all you Shazam lovers out there, I don't know, that was kind of cool. I was watching it and I was like, who is he? I recognize him. And then it clicked, Zachary Levi. That's pretty cool. Anyways, even though Thor and Loki are fun to watch, even though this movie's beautiful and the action scenes are fairly good, there's just too much that doesn't make sense. There's a point where Loki takes Thor and Jane to this portal that leads to the dark world, but it's not really explained how that really works. I guess that's through the convergence of the nine realms. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments. But it would be nice. For some reason, they just get right to where they need to go. And that actually happens more than once in the film. They just take these portals right where they need. So convenient. I don't know. It's lazy, I feel. But then they follow it back up with good action and good charm again. So the movie kind of makes up for itself. It keeps doing that where it doesn't make sense, but then it's fun. But then it doesn't make sense, and then it's fun. You know, it just kind of keeps doing that. I'm not even really mentioning the human aspect of this film because I don't care about it. I don't care about the doctor. He goes crazy and he's running around in his underwear. I don't care about Darcy a little bit. Darcy's kind of fun. She kind of cockblocks Jane a little bit, which is humorous. But really, I just care about the fighting. Loki's death was fairly impactful when I first saw this movie. But seeing it again, now I know that he faked his death. You actually get to see more of the charm and the planning of Loki, which is pretty nice. The final battle between Thor and Malekith is actually pretty nice. This is mostly because of how they use the convergence to battle Malekith and his forces. I like the kind of teleportation between the different worlds. It has a multiverse of madness kind of feel to it, which I didn't really realize until watching this movie again. It's an epic battle, and it really kind of gives these humans a bit more validity, even though, again, I could give a crap about them. I gave a shit about these people. At least they were useful in the end. Without this film, certain key points wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have seen Frigga's death. We wouldn't have seen Loki's fake death. We wouldn't have seen the Infinity Stone for the first time, the Reality Stone. It definitely has its place in the MCU, but it's just not as good as the other films. I feel like Thor Ragnarok was the first film to break from this mold, and I think largely it's because they dumped a lot of the dead weight. I'm talking about all those humans and Lady Sith and the Warriors 3. I know. I know I'm hating on them, but without them, it's just a better time. Chris Hemsworth steals the show yet again. Let me know what y'all think, and have a good day.